Hello. Today is January 8th, and we're all still trying to process the developments in DC 2 days ago and the things that have happened since. But I want to draw your attention to an interesting piece on the 25th Amendment in yesterday's Washington Post, penned by Brian Kalt. Kalt's a law professor at Michigan State, and his 2019 book, Unable, is about Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. As you probably know by now, that section addresses a procedure by which the cabinet can remove a president and replace him with a vice president. Just a footnote here, I want to come back at the end of this recording to the idea that Brian Kalt was in Grinnell in the fall of 2017 talking about whether a president can pardon himself. But for now, let's think about what he has to say about the removal section of the 25th Amendment. In his recent post piece, Kalt mentions that there's been social media buzz that Section 4 might already have been invoked during the events of January 6th. That is, the cabinet might have placed the executive power in the vice president's hands already. Kalt doubts this happens, but he does write about a provocative idea that Section 4 could be invoked without public knowledge of it. I find that intriguing on a number of different counts. I'll mention a few and presume that someone better versed than I knows the answer to the questions that I have. But these are the things that pop into my mind about invoking Section 4. First, where would the historical record of such an action reside? Would there be documentation? Would the vote of individual cabinet members be recorded and somehow archived? Maybe in the public papers of the president, perhaps embargoed for some specific length of time. Kalt implies an answer when he tosses out the idea that, granted in jest, Section 4 could have been invoked historically, but we were just never told about it. Another dimension that weighs on my mind is what effect the expectation of transparency or perpetual secrecy in the politics of this might mean for cabinet members who would be voting. As Kalt reminds us, it's hard to imagine keeping something like this under wraps, but if you could assure a cabinet member that her vote or her involvement in administering Section 4 would be kept secret, would that influence decision-making? Wouldn't it affect the decision about whether to be party to something like this, or how to vote, or whether to resign from the cabinet to avoid controversy completely? Finally, the thought that such a monumental action could be exempt from public scrutiny or from the view of Congress is troubling, but interesting. Admittedly, I'm letting my imagination run wild, but this could have important ramifications for presidential power. Let me lay out a basic, overly simplistic sketch. What we've seen over time is the expansion of executive power in the US due to a lot of different factors, but certainly one of those is successful power grabs by a sitting president, which then becomes actions that have precedent. But the power calculus would cut the other way as well. That is, to know that a president has been checked, successfully checked maybe, by his own cabinet would certainly linger in the psyche of all political actors. And mere knowledge that Section 4 has been invoked, whether successful or not, would make it much easier, I would imagine, to do it in the future. Those are some of the things I'm tossing about these days. Regardless, Brian Kalt's post piece is certainly worth a read. Now, back to his visit to Grinnell in 2017. I highly recommend that you watch the recording on the Rosenfield program's website of the conversation that Kalt had with Andy Graywall, law professor at the University of Iowa. In this conversation, Kalt addresses whether a president can pardon himself, which, safe to say, has only taken on more importance as time has passed with this Trump administration. Thanks for listening.